What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, an authentic football fan channel made in Manchester. The topics on the table today. So Jim Ratcliffe has done, yet again, another interview where he speaks about the Glazers, the management, and a load of other stuff, which we are definitely going to get into and sink our teeth into. Joshua Zirkzee's also done an interview with Sky Sports, where there's a couple of interesting quotes coming out from that. We've got players returning, some big senior players returning, and I want to discuss the squad as a whole and how much of an impact they can have, the players that are coming back. And we've also got a new star boy alert who has been tearing it up at the youth level for a while, but he's starting to come to fruition now and starting to really catch the eye of some fans. So I definitely want to talk about him. Look, people are probably more... people like Academy Scoop, for example, are probably more inclined to speak about him because they watch him, they actually go and watch him play week in, week out. But from what I've seen at the minute, I think we've got an exciting talent on our hands. Genuinely, I really, really do. And the signing of Kenda from Sporting... it might be a blessing in disguise. You know, they always say there's silver linings and everything, right? That could be a blessing in disguise. But we're going to kick things off with the Sir Jim Ratcliffe interview. So make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share to a friend, all that good stuff. Real Reds Talk. If you are on TikTok as well, the link is in the bio. So we'll kick it off with this quote because I've tried structuring it in chronological. It's a bit hard to tell how the interview went because I don't think it's an actual video one. I think it's just a written piece. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen the video itself, unlike the BBC one and the overlap. So I think it's just a written piece from the Times, the Times Sport, should I say. So I've picked the quotes and tried putting them kind of in order, and we'll just see how that goes. So Sir Jim Ratcliffe, on why he bought Manchester United, he said, "I can't honestly answer why we did it. It's quite a difficult question. With Nice in the French league, you can buy a club for £100 million. It's much cheaper access. But I don't particularly enjoy going to watch Nice because there are some good players, but the level of football is not high enough for me to get excited." Now, I'm not sure about you, but if you're a Nice fan and you hear your owner saying that, that's quite damning, isn't it? That's quite like, hold on a minute, Jim. What the fuck are you talking about, mate? Like, you own this club. And he's literally said there, I don't particularly enjoy watching Nice because there's some good players, but the level of football is not high enough for me to get excited. Now, with all due respect to Manchester United, obviously Manchester United is a much bigger club, right? But I'm pretty sure Nice are they third in the French league? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, third in the league, 47 points. Probably going to get Champions League football, just behind Marseille and PSG. Obviously, PSG are absolutely clear because they've been smashing it this season. But to come out and say you're not that excited about watching him, he doesn't mince words, does he? Unless it's the Glazers. If it's the Glazers, he won't say anything about them. But anyone else can get it. I mean, he is cutthroat with anyone. And I mean, this kind of falls into the next quote. So he gets asked about the management in kind of the past 10, 15 years at Manchester United. And he says, I mean, I would not have tolerated Ed Woodward or Richard Arnold. Richard was a rugby man. He didn't even understand football. Ed didn't have the credentials to manage the club. He was a merchant banker and accountant. He wasn't the chief executive. That is quite strong criticism of previous management, right? And this is where I get baffled. Well, I don't get baffled because I understand you're never going to slag off your boss, especially on camera, right? So he may have done, meaning the Glazers I'm talking about, he may have well done off camera to people who are quite close to the club. I don't know. I'm not too sure about that. But publicly, he does not want to criticise him at all. But when it comes to Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold, they'll absolutely slaughter him. But the thing is, Jim, who left them in charge for 10 years? Who let Ed Woodward run the fucking asylum? It all comes from the top. Everything comes from the top. Anyone knows that. You don't have to be in business or management or anything to know that. It comes from the top. Facts. So it's the Glazers' fault for leaving them in charge. If you're running a business, if Jim, let's take it to Ineos, right? If he has a certain sector in France or Germany or anywhere in Europe and the company or the place isn't running as smooth, it's because the fucking manager's an idiot. Who's worse? The people who leave him in charge or the manager? Do you know what I mean? So it's the Glazers' incompetency, if that's even a word, that's left these people in charge. And then he goes on to say, to be fair, the Glazers, they're really good on the commercial side. No one clipped that up as if that's me saying that, by the way. This is Sir Jim Ratcliffe. To be fair, the Glazers, they're really good on the commercial side. The people who advise me say the fans don't want to hear it, so I've got to be cautious. I get a lot of criticism if I support the Glazers. But the fact is, they're really decent people. That line is not going to sit well with United fans. It certainly doesn't sit well with myself. But I know anyone watching right now is a United fan. Just hearing that, they get a bit of a twinge in the back. It's not your sciatica. It's real. The fact is, they're really decent people. I don't know how you would define decent people. If you're speaking, I mean, look, they might get him a present at fucking Christmas or something for all I know. I don't have a clue. But if you're talking about the pure running of a club or caring about a club or anything on that element, anything on that level, they cannot be decent people because they have left Manchester United to rot for 20 years. Where's the decency there? You know? These quotes really, really do baffle me, but again, it's like he's trying to sing to the same hymn sheet that the Glazers are on. He's trying to... Ultimately, I think it is tricky for it. I think he wants to buy the club, all of it. Eventually, right? I think he wants to own Manchester United, and I think he has to toe the corporate line, if you will, to get to that area. I don't think he can come out in interviews and start saying, well, Joel's a fucking idiot, doesn't have a clue, doesn't care about United, sits in Florida, waits for the money to come in, and that's all they do. You know, they've abandoned the club, they've treated it like shit for years. No one's going to do business with you if you're talking about them like that, if you're putting them in a negative light. And plus, they're already in a negative light. Everyone knows about them. From top to bottom, everyone knows they are shit owners and they've neglected the club. That is just pure facts. It's not opinions. It's not subjective. They're just shit owners permanently. So it's already out there. Of course, as fans, you want to hear it from him. You want to hear him come out. And if he did an interview, he was like, yeah, they've handled it shockingly. I've come in, I had to clean up all their shit. We would love that. But it's never going to happen. It's never, ever going to happen. On the Glazers as well, it says, in my mind, we have a very professional partnership with the Glazer family. But have you met them? They're really honest, straightforward, and not what you expect when you read about them in the press. And they're both, Avram and Joel, the most involved in the club. Passionate about United. I like them as people. To be honest, they could have given us a bloody hard time, couldn't they, after we cocked up with Dan Ashworth and Eric Ten Hag? Could have, but didn't. That's because they don't care. They left, to be honest, the standards that you're comparing it to, from Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold to you making a silly decision on Ashworth, is nothing. To them, that's like, oh yeah, don't worry about that, mate. Ed Woodward ran this fucking club into the ground. You're doing fine, don't worry about that. You're focusing on football side, blah, blah, blah. Some of the words that I used in this, I have to be honest, I really don't like that quote. Have you met them? They're really honest, straightforward. We've not had communication as fans for fucking years. We had one Zoom call that was near the pandemic, I think, which Joel Glazer attended. That was it. For 20 years. 20 years. That's all we had. So to say they're straightforward, really honest, communicate, bullshit. Absolute bullshit. And they're both the most involved in the club. Have you ever heard a load of more nonsense in your life? Honestly. Anyway, let's read on to the other comments. He was saying, on the club in general, he's saying, I don't agree with the idea that there are ups and downs, that these things happen, because if I look at Real Madrid, Barcelona and Bayern Munich, they remain at the top. And that's not the case here because the club has been mismanaged and bad decisions have been made. That's what I'm saying. With a giant of United, you have to have done a monumental fuck-up to get us to where we're at the moment and manage it really, really, really bad consistently, because the amount of revenue that we generate, we've just bought to try to solve our problems, and we've ended up digging ourselves a bigger hole. So we got to the point where our finances are actually the other way around, and we're really struggling, and we're going to have to box clever, bring through academy players, and sell in the way that we should do as a big club. Had they done that from the start, we would still be a sustainable club like the clubs that he's mentioned in there, like your Madrids and Barcelonas and Bayern Munichs. Because even when Barcelona are going through their financial troubles, and they're still going through their financial troubles now, they are still right at the top. Probably going to get the last stages of Champions League. You're talking probably the final, semi-final. They've got some young talents there that are incredible. Lamine Yamal is unbelievable. Obviously, they brought Rafinha in, who's having a potential Ballon d'Or winning season. They've got Pedri, Gavi, Kobasare, I can't pronounce his name, centre-back. But they've got a load of young talents there that are really, really exciting. They've got a new stadium that they're building. So they're still doing things that are like the top level. United have dropped right down the table performance-wise. So our focus needs to be that. And it stems from when Sir Alex Ferguson left. And again, Sir Jim Ratcliffe spoke about this. He says, I like David Moyes. I think he's a very good manager. But going from Sir Alex Ferguson to Moyes is not what I would have done. Moyes took over from Ferguson, who won the Premier League 13 times and the Champions League twice. And you hand over to a guy who's never managed great players and has never won anything. A club can't always get it right, but they should have found the best chief executive in the world and the best manager in the world, because Manchester United is the best club in the world. Instead, they got both decisions wrong. There is something that we can agree on, Jim. For sure, we can agree on that. I think a lot of people at the time, I can't remember where Jose was. Was he still at Inter Milan? I can't remember. He might have gone to Madrid or back to Chelsea at that point. But he's someone I would have looked at bringing in straight away, because the dip then isn't too much. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, Sir Alex Ferguson was kind of chose Moyes as you've got the Scottish young manager coming up, hardworking. You can see why Ferguson kind of suggested him. But the level that we was at in a minute, I think we did need a Klopp or a Mourinho, that kind of level. And even then, to be fair, Jurgen Klopp wasn't, at that level. But I'm just saying, I felt like we could have done our due diligence there and brought in someone high level to take us forward. Because the dip after that, I mean, you had David Moyes showing Rio Ferdinand videos of Jagielka defending. I'm sorry, what? Jagielka? Rio? Couldn't fucking fill his boots, mate. Couldn't wash his boots. So, I agree with him on that. That's absolutely fine. He said the first thing Sir Alex Ferguson said to me that was that the shirt can be too heavy. It applies to everyone here, really. The coach, the players, the owner. It's turning me into an old man. It's hard to do the interviews. One cock up and you're legendary for it. Again, we have to agree, people, don't we? We have to say, the pressure at Manchester United it's a lot. Innit? It's a lot. You've seen even players now from our club, they go out on loan. Antony being a perfect prime example of this. Gone to Real Betis and has just smashed it since he's been there. An assist and a goal pretty much every game, it feels like. We're always getting notifications coming through. Again, he's done it for Betis, which shows the Premier League is an anomaly, innit? It is, if that's the right word to use. It's so difficult to compete because every team are physically strong, they're quick, they press the life out of you, they're organised. You do not get a relatively easy game in the Premier League. Whereas you look at, I don't know, the German league or Spanish league or Italian league, if you play a club that's near the bottom, Hellas Verona, or if you play, I don't know who's the bottom of the Spanish league, I don't know. What's that club beginning with E? Oh, come on. Football knowledge, Nick. Football knowledge. Oh, it's going to kill me. Don't help me. Don't help me out. There is a club at the bottom of the Spanish league beginning with E. And that is going to piss me off. Come on, Nick. Search your brain. I'm getting staged right now because I'm in front of a camera. Oh, I'm going to have to Google it. I'm giving in. I'm going to have to Google it. It's really, really going to bother me. Even if I don't even know if they're still in the fucking league, to be fair. It's not Espanyol. Who the fuck was that? They must have been fucking relegated. Oh wow. Shows how much I know about the second division in Spain. Elche. Is it Elche? Elche? I think it was Elche. I was Elbar. Ibar. That's who I was on about. Fucking hell. Don't know. I didn't remember that. Yeah, Ibar. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, those kind of teams when you come up against them, you know for a fact if Barcelona are going to play them or Real Madrid, they can rest a few players. They're probably going to have a 70% possession, not be troubled too much. There's no way near. I remember Ralph Rangnick when he was at United, when he was talking about the Prem. When you're playing teams near the bottom, it's so much more competitive in comparison to when he was managing in the German league. You do not get a day off. You don't get a moment to think, and that's why players struggle. Because we can travel to Everton, for example. Think about that game. Really, really tough game. Went 2-0 down. They was pushing us all over. They was challenging us. They was pressing us from minute one. And you don't even necessarily... I mean, Everton's team isn't full with star-studded quality. They're just a proper team. Strong, athletic. And they can run for days. And even that on its own is enough to compete. So what he's talking about, the pressure there at United is massive. The Premier League is massive. I think it's, in my opinion, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a fan, I think managing Manchester United is the most difficult job in the world, genuinely. And playing for United is probably one of the hardest as well. Obviously, there's expectations at other clubs. Obviously, there's expectations at Barca and Madrid and Liverpool and all these places, right? But United's just different. United has swallowed up some of the best managers in the world, some of the best players in the world. Imagine if you're young players. That's why I'm so impressed. I'm going to speak about Heaven and Dorgu and these guys and Mantato in a minute. Well, towards the end of the show, should I say. That's why I think it's impressive when you get a young player coming in. Even Cheeto, you can throw into that as well. When there is that high pressure. Look at Højlund, how much he's struggling in a minute. And I don't know, young players now, they just seem to be built different. When they come into the team, they have more of a maturity about them. They just, pressure's in the back of their head. They just want to play football. And I love that. I love that. So, yeah, some interesting quotes there from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. That's the third interview he's done now in the past 2 weeks. And regardless, whatever you want to say, I don't agree with the comments about Glazers. I think, obviously, he's completely wrong on them, calling them decent people and, you know, they support the club and all this kind of bullshit. I don't think anyone would agree with that. But one thing I will say is, at least he's communicating. You know, the Glazers had owned the club for nearly 20 years now. I think 20 years dead on, pretty much, since the day that they bought it, or at least close to that. Or since the dad bought it. And within that time frame, we've never ever heard from him. Never. They've just, crack on with it. We don't care, mate. We're in America. We've got Tampa Bay to look after and all that kind of stuff. I remember the story coming out, actually, about Tampa Bay. Is it Tampa Bay Buccaneers? In the NFL, that all their facilities are like elite, world-class, high-level, and they didn't want the United players or coach or staff coming over to see that because then they would realise the difference into, like, Carrington's been left and Old Trafford's been left, etc., etc. So they don't give a shit about the club. You can sugarcoat it however you want. You can paint a certain narrative. They don't care. He's saying all of that to stay in their good books. Simple as that for me. Let's move on. In fact, let me get into the comments and then I can think of Charlie Malman. Can I add a player to? Can I add a player to that new star alert? Absolutely, absolutely. I'm always open to recommendations for younger players because I don't watch a lot of the, under 21s or under 18. To be honest, I don't. I have a very, and this is not an excuse, I have a very busy lifestyle. I work in social media. Obviously, I handle some of the socials for this channel as well. I do YouTube, I edit. I ain't got time really to watch those games. So I like to rely on other people's kind of information or listen to people like Academy Scoop, who's incredible on X. H as well, who does the overlap, the analysis for that. I will listen to these guys when they talk about these players. And it piques my interest. I have a look and I go, okay, that's interesting. And that's why I'm going to talk about Mantato shortly. Diego Leon, though, is going to take the league by storm. That's from Charlie Malman. Yeah, the Paraguayan left-back who we brought in is going to join us officially this summer. I don't think he can join, can he? Because he's 18 years old. Or he's just turning 18. So I think it's some kind of, I don't know if it's a visa thing or what have you. But yeah, I've heard good things about him. Really, really good things. Powerful, electric. Exactly what you want from a wing-back. Strong. Decent on the ball, has those attacking instincts as well, so I'm excited to see what he can do. But again, he's one of those, to be honest, the measuring stick for young players at the minute is like, no one thought, I thought Heaven, for example, would kind of come in, towards the back end of the season, have one or two cameos, maybe go out, on loan in the summer, or, that's the path you usually expect. But since he's come into the team the past couple of games, he's like, no, I can handle this. No problem, mate. Comes into the team and you're like, maybe he should probably start again against Leicester tomorrow night. So these players aren't scared anymore. They're coming into the team and they're becoming the senior players. We've got a lot of young players when you think about it. When you actually deep it in our 11, you go through them all, right? Even Onana for a keeper's pretty young. 28 is he, I think. Onana's younger than me. Crazy. De Ligt is 24. Yoro is 18. I think Aiden Heavens, 17, 18. Ugate's 23. Dorgu's 21, 20, I think. Kobe Mainu, 19, 20. Garnacho, 19, 20. Ahmad, 21. Zirkzee's 23. Højlund's 21. We've got a lot of young players. A lot. Plus the players that are coming through the academy as well. Exciting. Very exciting. So I agree with that Diego Leon comment. It's like the Norwegian League. I got a favourite club here, but I cannot watch the Norwegian League because it's slow and makes it boring to watch. I think that's what it does mean. It's too slow. That's fair. Lumen in the chat saying big up. But having a go at people they left in charge is the worst insult you can give the Glazers. Jim feeds the baby, but as he feeds the baby, he takes away their food. He actually tells us how bad the Glazers have been by saying the club has been mismanaged and badly run. Yeah, he's kind of indirecting him, innit? You know what I mean? Ahmad Diallo in the chat saying I'm not 21. What is he, 22, 23? Something like that? I'm sure he is, isn't he? 22, 20. Yeah, 22. Sorry, I was a year off. Who, by the way, Ahmad Diallo is 9 days after my actual birthday. So he's a July. He was born in July. And also, get on this, right? Garnacho's birthday is the 1st of July, which is the day before my birthday. So Garnacho and Ahmad, it must be something about July babies. I don't know what to tell you. Imagine if that was the real Ahmad as well. We did not expect Martinez to get that injury. It won't be long until Heaven and Yoro are our starters. Actually, yeah, let's go on to that. I was going to go on to the Zirkzee quotes in the interview, but I'll go on to. I want to discuss the players that return. Well, we hope to be returning to this team, whatever kind of time frame you want to put around it. So, if you think of the performance that we put in against Real Sociedad on Thursday night, right, it's probably one of the better performances under Amarin, if not the best team performance. Everyone had a really good game, and in that, the players that we were missing. We had no Yoro, no Shaw, no Mount, no Lissandro, no Maguire, no Ahmad, no Kobe Mainu. That's arguably, obviously I know Shaw's been missing for a while and Mount's been in and out of the team as well. We're talking about nearly 8 players there. 8 first-team players, arguably. I mean, Ahmad, definitely. Mainu, first-team player. Maguire, first-team player. Lissandro, first-team player. Yoro has pretty much become a first-team player. So at least 5 players that you're missing, senior players. You add them back into this mix now where we're starting to get a bit better as a unit, as a team, and they get used to it. Ahmad is the biggest one in it. I miss him so much, honestly. The form that he was in before he went, he was the guy we was looking to every single game to produce something. The hat-trick against Southampton, the goal against Manchester City, you can go on and on and on. He's delivered moment after moment after moment. And if we can, I saw something, a report, I don't know how legit it was because the journalist who reported it was a bit meh, but he was saying that early next month he's going to return into the team training, right? So if he does, that should line him up as him being available to play in the final if we reach the final in Bilbao against whatever team it may be. It might be Rangers or Spurs or it won't be Rangers actually, but I don't know who it's going to be. But we play them in the final. Could be Frankfurt, could be Tottenham, etc. We need him fit and available. If we have the majority of those players available for the final, if we get there, I think we win that. If Ahmad, Mainu, if Mount, even Mount can get fit. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people. Yoro, Lissandro's going to be out for the rest of the season, so that's not a thingy, but get some of those players back and you give yourself a really, really good chance. Added into this team at the moment, the form that Bruno Fernandes is in. Even Casemiro's coming back into a bit of form now, so it's nice to see. I thought that was worth mentioning. And Zirkzee's another one as well who's... you think about the difference, night and day in it from when he was getting booed out of Old Trafford, basically off the pitch. He looked completely devoid of confidence. He looked like he was going to leave the club. There was links with Juventus and clubs in the Italian league, going back to Bologna potentially. And everyone was like, oh, I'm not too sure. Go and watch his performance on Thursday night. I was live in the flesh for it. His first touch is fucking unreal. Unbelievable. Nutmegging players, drag backs, vision on the ball when he does receive it. That left side now, that 10, with Dorgu on the left as well, that balance works really well, I think. Really does. So I'm excited to see him develop even more. He's done an interview with Sky Sports. He was speaking about Ahmad as well, saying you cannot get the ball from him. The ball sticks to his feet. It's ridiculous. Listen to this as well. I read somewhere that someone said Ivorian Messi about Ahmad, and it's basically, yeah, this guy is really good. Now, we're not saying he's Messi, but you can see the comparisons in it, like that kind of the jink with the ball, the left foot, cut inside, can go on his right, really low centre of gravity, but strong for a small person as well. He's not Messi, right? I'm not comparing him to Messi, but to get that praise from a player who's in training with him every single day, Ahmad Diallo just put Messi as the white meat. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to see him develop. 22 years old. And before he got injured, he was looking the man. Like, he was doing bits. So, devastated he got injured, but huge praise from Zirkzee there. Zirkzee also got asked about his footballing idol. He says the one and only Ronaldinho. He made you want to go out and play yourself. And you can see that his idol was Ronaldinho. Even some of the skills that he does is kind of like paying homage to him on the pitch. He's a techie player, Zirkzee. Really, really good, confident left foot, right foot. And hopefully, look, he's another one that's exciting. If he can start to improve as well and get a bit better, I'm telling you, because he looks like he's... I think the one biggest concern with Zirkzee in the Prem... I like Trump doing that, don't I? Great guy. Sleepy Joe. The good quality is that he's struggling with the Prem in terms of like physicality and getting close and pushing him off, and the pace of it and the timing was off, completely off. Now he's adapted. Now he looks like he fits it. Now he's attracting players towards him. And when you get players who do that, space opens up everywhere else for your Brunos and Garnachos and other players. So that's why he's important in that team. And I think Amorim at Sporting, when he had that kind of front three, Gyökeres, Goncalves and Trincao. Trincao was one of those players who was a bit like a Garnacho. I'm not saying Goncalves was like Zirkzee because I didn't watch enough of him, but he was less of a Garnacho. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there was two different kind of players that you would have operating in them 10s. And I think that balance works nicely. Now we've moved Garnacho over to the right-hand side and we've put Zirkzee on the left. And I think that just works a lot better for me. So, yeah. Happy with Zirkzee. I think, obviously, more to improve. Hopefully, he can chip in with a few more goals. But what's his stats this season? Let's have a look. I'm intrigued. He's not going to be a mega because he's not scored loads, but in all competitions, he's got 6 goals and 2 assists so far. So, yeah, it's not great, but I would probably suggest the majority of him is starting to... He's probably more close. I know he scored against Fulham in the first game of the season, but he's looking better overall in it. It's not all about stats. It's about overall gameplay, and he's improving for sure. Sorry I missed that comment then. On Heaven for 1 million, though. That's from Kona. I know. Incredible, right? Let's talk about the young players. Heaven, we've spoken about with me and Sam when we did the Leicester preview. We dropped that this morning, by the way. So if there's anyone who wants to go and watch that after this, please do go give that a watch. There's some interesting tactical discussions on there. We spoke about who should start, predicted 11s, and yeah, just general chit-chat about the game. I will put that in the chat when I can get hold of it. Well, let me find it. But yeah, I want to speak about some of the young players because I think we've got some exciting talents coming up, and some of them who haven't necessarily featured in the first team yet is, I can't pronounce his name. Apologies if I'm butchering this, right? But Bendito Mantato. I don't know if you say Mantato. I'm not entirely sure. Got a goal and an assist last night for Manchester United's under-21s. I think it was against West Brom. A versatile wide player, giving me kind of Kenda vibes. I don't want to overdo it and over-egg it. I had a look at him this morning, read a couple of scouts reports. Keep an eye out for this kid. Like I said, there may be people who watch Academy Football week in, week out. You tell me, people, if I'm going wrong with this. But this is a special talent that I've seen. Really good on the ball. Offers a lot in possession and out of possession. Very versatile. I can see him fitting under Amorim for sure. I mean, and you know for a fact Amorim is not shy to play kids. He's just not. Starting Heaven against Real Sociedad in probably, well, it's the most important game of the season, and trusting him and putting him out there is a massive nod. Yoro is starting regular now. He's not afraid to do that. He's throwing youngsters. I mean, Chido obviously gave him 50 minutes against Fulham. He's not afraid to do it. Dorgu, obviously they brought him in and they bought him, so he was always going to play, but he's young. He's playing him every game. So I would not be surprised if Bendito Mantato got an appearance this season in first team. Might be towards the end. It might be one of the last games. But I think we're ready to push these kind of players because they're fearless. It's a different breed of young players that we've got coming through at the moment. I've always been very on the side of caution when it's like, you know, when people say like, oh, play him. Just play him as a youngster. What's the worst that can happen? Play him. I'm starting to change that narrative a little bit now because these kids are coming in and they're just performing. Now, obviously, you're going to get the odd player who comes in and they don't do that and they get nervous and they're like, okay, they're not ready. Harry Hamas could be that example. I don't think Harry Hamas was available for first-team football when everyone was trying to push it and say he should come in, he should come in. I think there was some defensive frailties with him. I think he needs to develop his physical game a little bit more. But these boys that are coming in, Chido's like a big lad, physically. And that's for a young kid coming into the Premier League, that's one of the highest demands that you can have, like being able to deal with big centre-backs. You know, if you're a young kid, 17-year-old, and you come up against fucking Van Dijk, Kanate, Saliba, Gabriel, these are big boys, mate. Van der Ven's, you need to be able to deal with them and hold your own. Højlund struggles with that sometimes, and he's considered as a senior player, you know. So, physically, they have to be ready. I want to see Bendito Mantato in the team. That's the next one I really, really want to push and see him get an opportunity. Even if it's on the bench, if he gets 5-10 minutes. It's difficult in a minute because obviously we're out of the FA Cup. The Carabao Cup final gets played tomorrow, so obviously we're not in that. And we're only in Europa League, the latter stages now. So it's important games for majority. That's why I'm saying probably towards the end of the Premier League, the last couple of games, we'll probably see him feature because there's nothing to play for in the Premier League. We're, 14th? We could reach the highest, it's 10th or 9th or something. So I think we'll see him towards the end of the season. Well, he's an exciting player. Let me know if you guys have anyone you want to shout out from the under-21s, under-18s you think could have a real impact in this team, or someone that you want to push, and give me the reason why you want to push him as well. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. T2DSO says, hope Bendito Mantato makes it. I really want to hear the Stretford end sing The Lion King. Oh, I would fucking love that. I would love it. Love it. We do need what Old Trafford did with Heaven every game. He had a shaky start, but damn did the crowd get into him. Do you know what I loved about that? Right? There was a situation within the first 3 minutes, I think it was. I can't remember what Sociedad player it was. But there was a 1v1 within the first 3 minutes. He just went smash straight into him, won the ball. And little things like that, confidence builders. As soon as if he would have lost that first tackle, honestly, he could have ended up having a bit of a tricky game. But because he was on it, he was concentrated, he was focused, which is what you want from young players. He was ready for it. He was ready for it. So, yeah, I thought he did really, really well. I was really impressed with his performance. And it's difficult for a centre-back because concentration's so important. For a striker, obviously, your first touch, finishing, instinct has got to be there from the thing. But you can kind of get away with it a little bit more. As a centre-back, you really have to be switched on in a game like that. And I'm excited to pay £1 million for him. That could look like a bargain. To pay whatever we did for Chido, that could look like a bargain. These are the signings we've been asking for from Ineos to come in, and just from United in general. These little gems that you bring through that cost a couple of £1 million. Mitoma at Brighton cost 1.5 million, right? I think 2 months worth of wages from Jadon Sancho was the price of Mitoma. Get on that. So it's about boxing clever. United needs to do this a lot more. Just because we're a big club doesn't mean you have to buy everyone for 50 million, 100 million. To be honest, the majority of players that work out more were cheaper in a weird way. Nasser Majara is 15 million quid. One of the best buys we've done in a long time. All the expensive ones that we've done haven't worked out at all, really. So I like these kind of signings and I'm here for it. What we do need what Old Trafford did with... Oh, sorry, I read that out. I do not remember the names, but we also got 2 cheap but great talents from Crystal Palace. How are they doing now? Also the kid from Australia. Samuel Lasale, I think you're referring to as well. I don't think he's quite ready yet. The other talent from Palace, I'm not sure who you're alluding to be fair. But honestly, we've got some really exciting players. I think that's one of the biggest things why Amarin joined as well. Because Ineos would have gone, look, these are the lads that we've got here. We've got some really, really exciting talents. We need the right coach to nurture them into the first team, and we need to start relying on Carrington a little bit more because we're trying to box clever with the financials. And I'm here for it. If they're performing, if they're coming into the team and they're doing well, why not? You know what I mean? Why not? That's what I say. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, people. Please do smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're watching. Real Red Talk, link in the bio on there. Check us out. You've got me, Chive, Sam, Shreyas, Aaron, Adam, whenever they're available. Dan as well, whenever they're available. Some really, really good lads on the thinger. And yeah, I mean, I think we'll have a show tonight around 7 o'clock-ish. I'm just figuring out the logistics for that. But I think me, Sam, and Aaron could be on tonight. And Aaron hasn't been on for a bit, so I want to pick his brain about a couple of things. Apart from that, we dropped the preview for the Leicester game this morning. So if you want to go check that out, if you have the time to, please do. And yeah, I'll just have a nice weekend, everyone. Appreciate you.